I suppose we could call him the ex-president of Venezuela, the deposed president, the kidnapped president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, is going to appear in a New York court later today, charged with various drug trafficking and weapons offenses. And going back to some of the stuff that we said in the first hour, Pam's absolute conviction that Venezuela without Maduro is going to be a heck of a lot better than Venezuela with Maduro. Certainly don't, I'm not a starry-eyed Chavista, so I don't regret the passing out of office of Nicolas Maduro. But Donald Trump, the latest from him is referring to the new president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. He said if she doesn't do what's right, she is going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. So all of that, we're talking to her and she's promised to do the right thing. Well, that seems to have changed. She's now not promising to do the right thing, if ever she did promise to do the right thing. And we know what, in Donald Trump's administration's eyes, the right thing to do is, which is open the borders to American business and we'll fix it all. A price bigger than Maduro? What's a price bigger than being kidnapped and put on trial in America? Being killed? Baby, you think being kidnapped is tough. Wait until one of those Delta Force operatives points a gun at you and pulls the trigger. So that's, okay. And then he added in these remarks made in an interview with The Atlantic late yesterday, for Venezuela, regime change, anything you want to call it, is better than what you have right now. Can't get any worse. Those 4 words, can't get any worse. We're joined now via Zoom by Mitchell Plitnick, who is the president of a think tank called ReThinking Foreign Policy. Mitchell, good morning to you. Can't get any worse. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's one thing that's history has proven is that things can always get worse. That's not to say that things are not already very bad in Venezuela, but the history of U.S. regime change in other countries is not a good one. It is not a promising one. This one even less so because it is unclear not only what the Trump administration's plan is, but whether they actually have a plan beyond just taking Maduro out of office at all. That is not yet clear. Beyond, of course, opening, as you mentioned, opening the doors to American businesses and American exploitation of Venezuelan resources. Trump likes to talk about how the profits will also flow to the Venezuelan people, but we have seen no mechanism for how that would work. And actually, Delcy Rodriguez, who, let's not forget, is still part of the Maduro regime, even though she's a very different sort of figure than Maduro. She rose to power based on her ability to kind of mitigate the damage to the Venezuelan economy that was caused by U.S. sanctions and the cutoff of most of the outlets for Venezuelan exports. She is an economist. She can do certain things, but it is unclear exactly what she wants to do, and it is unclear that she's disposed to essentially sell out her country, which is what it appears Trump wants her to do.
Yes, yeah. I don't know on what they based, Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, who have been the main people talking to the American people and I suppose the globe through their media conferences and their television appearances and so on, that Delcy Rodriguez was going to cooperate and she was going to do what the Americans think is the best thing for Venezuela to do. But the Interior Minister, Diosdado Cabello, is still there. The Defense Minister, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, is still there. The head of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, is still there. They are still very much Chavistas and wanting to continue that line of governance. So unless there are very, very deep diplomatic back channels open that we don't know about, the confidence of the Americans that things will get better seems misplaced.
Well, again, I think this is one of the worrisome indications that the Trump administration really hasn't thought through what to do after they take they essentially kidnap Maduro and his wife and bring them to New York for what is likely to be largely a sham trial. But there does not seem to be a plan. And the to the extent that there is one, at least for right now, they'd have to work with, as you just pointed out, pretty much the entire existing Maduro regime, just without Maduro at the top. So it's the same. The government that was in power in Venezuela remains in power. And again, this just is a very worrisome indication that they really have no idea of what they're doing. It seems more likely that there's a few different agendas, maybe even competing agendas driving this. Trump's obsession with resources and getting more resources for the United States. Rubio is approaching this much more in an ideological vein. Rubio sees Cuba as the ultimate target, but really wants to rid Latin America of the left-leaning governments entirely. Hegseth is pretty much just somebody who wants to who prioritizes flexing American muscle. So it seems there's these different competing agendas here. There's certainly, Rubio and Hegseth are certainly subservient to Trump. But is there a plan? Is there any idea of how to move forward in Venezuela? The thing I think that we've seen is that the United States doesn't want to actually physically occupy Venezuela. They don't want to actually have to run Venezuela day to day. And the reason I think that they rejected Maria Machado is that the elites of Venezuela were not interested in working with her. She did not have enough support there, whereas Rodriguez does. And I think so they're trying to move forward here in the hope that they can threaten Rodriguez enough to cooperate, because that does seem to be the only tactic they're pursuing, at least at the moment.
Because you have this inner circle, and you have what seems to be, from a very long way away, a relative stability between the civilian and the military power centers. So Rodriguez and her brother are representing civilian interests, and Padrino and Cabello representing the military side. And there's a balance at the moment. And the very avowed military support for Rodriguez taking over, again, I mean, they might be papering over cracks, as you suggested. There might be competing interests. But there is this cabal, this circle that controls power, and controls power in its own interests. There's this web of loyalists and security organisms. There's corruption, there's surveillance, there is extraction from the Venezuelan economy, which is making some people rich. Why would they give that up?
I don't see why they would, unless they're under threat. And I think that's why Trump is pursuing that avenue. I think Trump prefers to work with them. And I don't think they will give that up, and I don't think Trump will insist that they do. I think Trump will insist that they cut the United States in for a piece of the pie, lest they face the kind of consequence that Maduro just faced. I think that seems to be what we're seeing here. It seems to me that the first choice of the Trump administration is to continue to work with the existing civilian and military elites in Venezuela, bring American interest, business interest in for their slice, and out of that, is there anything that's going to flow to the Venezuelan people? I mean, to be frank, there might be something, because the Venezuelan economy has been so devastated by its isolation by the United States over the last really 3 decades. That there could be some noticeable improvement just from having the economy function again. But I don't think we're looking at a true revival of the kind of Venezuelan economy that we saw in the 1980s, 1970s, before all of this started. So, which at this point is so long ago. And I think that we're essentially seeing the Trump administration trying to bring in their own cohorts to work with existing elites. I don't think they really want to replace all the existing elites in Venezuela, but I think they will if those elites don't cooperate.
Mitchell Plitnick, thank you very, very much indeed for talking to us this morning. Mitchell Plitnick is a foreign policy analyst and author.